the next one is I think it's a very interesting one because it holds somewhat of a promise.
Mhm.
It's the tipping point where citizen developers will account for 50% of software development is only 3 years away.
Mhm.
So the reason that we did this is we see a lot of citizen developer activity, but at what point do they account for roughly 50% of software development, and
Yeah.
how would that look like?
Yes. It's a great question. It's a provocative point. I have to tell you, you know, low code has been the biggest topic for me. I cover other things at Forrester, but it's been my biggest topic for some time. It accounts for more than half of my activities. And in that more than half of my activities, citizen development is the big topic. That is what everybody is wrestling with. And thank goodness, because as I said earlier, I think now's the time. I don't think we can think about this anymore. Um, I think it'd be interesting to take a large enterprise and look at all of the shadow IT activity that's going on in that enterprise. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a very substantial percentage of the software work that's being done in that company, but it's
Roughly,
part of the strategy. It's not
roughly,
part of the strategy.
no, it's not. But roughly, how much of that software do you
Uh,
think accounts
I,
for?
I could easily see a quarter, 25%, easily.
25%.
It may even be 50% in
So
some
we're
other.
almost there, right? Once we
We
govern
could
all that.
there. But I think the key point here is to recognize that it is not that work is being done outside of the software strategy. That's what we need to tackle here is include these business people in our software strategies. They are part of the labor force that we now have
Yeah.
at our disposal to create and maintain the software that we need. And that in my mind that's the key advance here. And as you were mentioning, it's a cultural challenge because we haven't thought this way. It's also an organizational challenge. You know, how do you organize teams? There's some good work that's gone on. There's some good work that's been done in the agile world. You know, where business people are incorporated onto
Yeah.
teams. It's good work, but we're going to go even further than that. If you know, if we're really going to incorporate business people into our software strategy, we're going to have to recognize the software work they do in their job descriptions. And you know, a lot of the folks who get involved in these projects do it in their own time. They do it
Yes.
because it's more fun than their regular jobs.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because that is a struggle all over the organizations that we talk about this. So should this be in their job description? How much time should they reserve for their involvement in software development? What are
It
you?
probably should be in their job description. Actually, if you talk to teams that are operating using development teams, you know, with coders who are using agile methods that incorporate business people onto their teams, one of the biggest problems they'll tell you about is I can't get that business person's time.
No.
They've got a day job, and we're on a 2-week sprint, and they're, you know, on a project and they're on some other business project, and I can't get their time. um, that's emblematic of the problem. If we rely on business people to do software work out of the kindness of their heart, or doing the right thing, but it's not part of their job, that's not a way to operate. They're not. It's not going to be reliable. It's not going to be consistent, and we're just not going to get the full measure of their time and their attention.
So did you already come across um, job descriptions that are um, using the software development part in their description? Did
Yeah,
you? Yeah. So
yeah.
it's already happening, but it's not at large.
It's not common. I in the research I did on citizen developers, I did encounter people who were not professional developers. They were business people, but who now had software work, so, defined as part of their job. I called these folks LOB developers, line of business
Line of
developers.
business, yes.
They tended to be, well, they were always embedded in a business unit. They, interestingly enough, they progressed into software work from administrative jobs. So, and administrative jobs tend to be low paid. They tend
Yes,
to be on the lower end of the pay scale. So for them to progress into software work was a big step up in their careers
an opportunity.
for these folks. It was a really great opportunity.
Yeah,
By the way, administrators, I think of administrators kind of like nurses. The whole medical profession doesn't work without nurses. And business operations don't work without administrators. They actually know how things work,
yeah.
really, not how we say they work.
No,
They
and they
really,
have a direct benefit if the problem or the challenge is solved. So they
absolutely,
immediately feel the impact.
absolutely. And so anyway, I have run into people in that role, but it's not typical.
Do you see this changing within the next 3 years? Do you
Oh,
expect
absolutely.
big enterprises putting that part of software development into job descriptions within those 3 years?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
they need
hope
to.
it's less than 3 years. This is so important to us, our clients, becoming digital businesses. I'm hoping 2020 is a really big year for this, and we really see a lot of progress. Again, it doesn't have to be across an entire global enterprise, but just get started within a department or two or division, and start to figure this out.
Fast right
Uh,
now. Start doing it.
Now is the time.
Yeah,
Now is the time.
great piece of advice. Last subject, John. Organizations that invest in citizen development in a deliberate and smart way will be the ones that ultimately survive
And thrive.
and thrive.
Not only survive, but thrive. Yes. I again, if digital transformation depends on the involvement of the business people in the software strategy, then your future competitiveness, your ability to innovate, your ability to to basically introduce new ideas and new programs into your business depends on a very active and smart and governed citizen developer strategy, part of your software strategy. I just we can't make developers fast enough to fill all the needs,
Exactly.
and so we have to turn to the business people, and as a labor source. But in addition to that, they're really smart. They really understand, particularly operations. They really understand how things work and how they could be better. So why wouldn't we want them, to be very to be involved, if not lead, the development of applications that automate those business processes?
So we are discussing the impact on businesses. Do you see any use cases or impact on society as a whole? Because
Oh,
right now the whole movement of low and no code is powered and fueled by organizations that are capable of paying for these kind of platforms. Do you see use cases where this will be used in other parts of society, not being businesses?
that's a great question. Um,
I didn't think of it myself. It came when I had a conversation with a lady that asked me about what the content would be of this webinar.
yeah,
So
no, it's a great question. I mean, um, in one sense, there's an impact on society if because there's an impact on labor and there's an impact on the work that people actually do. So if you are not if you are not a person who has desire, aptitude, motivation, um, your opportunities are going to be quite different, and they may be lesser than if you are. Um, I think the other angle on this is as companies as companies become digital businesses, they expose their services, their support, the other aspects of doing business with them, or interacting with them, to the actual customers, to their actual customers. Maybe those are consumers, maybe they're patients in a healthcare setting, or students in a
Or
university,
citizens.
or citizens for government. So I think you could see as a citizen development applying not only to business people doing software, but actually citizens who are doing software with maybe data that their government has exposed to them about, I don't know, the weather or farming conditions or soil or climate or what have you.
Exactly.
So it becomes, a societal phenomenon, not just a corporate phenomenon.
Exactly. And that is what I think this movement, that makes this movement so interesting and so
Yes,
compelling, to see not only what we can do within businesses, but what we can do for society if we put these tools in the hands of hopefully everybody.
right,
I'd, I'd,
right.
I'd love to do a webinar, a special webinar, all about what could be done if we give those tools to
Well,
in the hands of people.
I honestly, it's hard enough trying to understand how this is going to play out in companies. Uh,
Yeah.
you've just raised the bar, my friend.
Well, let's keep doing that, John.